I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mystic River Mural Project. The Mystic River Mural is an ongoing, evolving mural that's located in Somerville next to the Mystic River Housing Project, the low-income housing project, and was cut off from the river, the Mystic River, by a highway, an interstate highway that was built in the 1960s. And we saw this highway as kind of almost a wound in the landscape of this neighborhood, because it kind of just cut everything off from the natural world. And so the mural was a way to symbolically reconnect them.
The one thing that really stood out for me with the students was how little they knew about about a river that was quite literally 1 block away from where they lived. Between them and a river was an elevated section of a highway, so that they actually couldn't see the river from where they lived, and the only way to access the river was to actually walk through an underpass.
So the reason we kind of went with the idea of a mural is that, if you can imagine, it's sort of like a tattoo over a scar. The mural, as I say, we started in 1996, so it's been going on for almost 14 years. It's roughly 8 feet high, and it's kind of irregular because it's on wood, and it's attached directly to the wall, and it's around 400 feet long now. And why we chose murals is because murals are something that are really part of the public, that people can see. There's thousands of commuters that drive by this mural every day, and it also is part of the people that live in the a low-income housing project called the Mystic River, Mystic Housing Project that's right there, that we could engage the kids and the people there in actually helping to create the murals.
Each year, the Mystic Mural we have to find funding for it, so year after year, which makes it a little difficult. And it's not necessarily, a huge project, but it's probably $17,000, $18,000 to $20,000 a year. And the money we use to help pay for the muralist, obviously, part of the program as well, as much as it's about environmental ed and public art. It's also about job readiness and getting kids to work, so we pay the kids as well. Even to hire our youth for the summer for 6 weeks is around $1,000 per youth. So, but each year we get money from foundations. We've gotten money from the Mass Environmental Trust, from Community Development Block Grant funds is a big one. Sedora Foundation gave money, New England Grassroots Environmental Fund. So basically we're looking for funders who have an interest in, usually it's environmental work or environmental science, as well as public art.
The students that I worked with were from a variety of cultures and backgrounds, which was really interesting. We tried really hard when we were in the interview process to try and select students that were from all levels of socioeconomic conditions. So we had a girl that was from Haiti originally that lived in the projects. And then we had a lot of students from El Salvador, some that were actually born in El Salvador and so were immigrants. And we also had a few returning students that came in who were from all sorts of locations. Some of them actually lived over by where the mural project was. And so all of these different types of people all had to work together to sort of achieve the same sort of goal, which was painting the mural and getting everything accomplished and learning about the Mystic River itself. And so everybody had very unique viewpoints as they were sort of approaching these different problems and these different tasks together.
I get to work with students from the high school, but most of these students are children of recent immigrants who have come to the Somerville where the mural is. So they bring a part of their culture to this project, and part of it comes in the form of shared stories. As we're painting and designing, we get to hear stories from people's backgrounds, and also how they react to nature is fascinating. I remember one woman named Armina who was from Vietnam, and I remember when we were canoeing into an area of the Mystic River where there were a lot of mud flats, where she started digging up clams, And she had grown up in an area of the Mekong Delta in Vietnam, which had a lot of fishing and wildlife. And in fact, we ended up that year putting her grandfather, who was from Vietnam, into the mural as a fisherman because he liked to fish here on the Mystic River, and we wanted to do something about fishing. So that's really an important part of this whole project, is kind of the way people find something in common in nature that brings their different cultures together.
So the process during the first years of the mural of coming up with themes, it was literally going out with cameras and taking pictures of plants, taking pictures of the wildlife that existed in the river, and we would go from those photographs to rough sketches to incorporating different aspects of the flora and fauna into the river. But it started as sort of a photo documentary of the river. In the very first parts of the mural, you'll see images of the Mystic River Housing Project and images of the students exploring the river in canoes, and all of the different aspects of the flora and fauna that the students encountered, be it purple loosestrife or goldfinches or different herons that they photographed during those initial years. And then as the mural went on, we started to incorporate in the second, third years different aspects of the sort of juxtapose the historic past of the river. So you'll see some black and white paintings of people in old-fashioned swimsuits, because once upon a time, where the overpass now used to be a swimming beach. So so it's kind of a past and present perspective that has kind of grown and grown quite literally as the mural has expanded.
So for one of the years, one of the themes that we focused on was community work, and the things that we did to explore that was go out and cut down Japanese knotweed, which was an invasive plant on the river. And another thing we did was collect all the trash that was in and around the river, just to make sure it didn't interrupt the wildlife. And we included images of us, carrying bundles of Japanese knotweed, and our, efforts to actually cut it down and how hard we were working. And I think there are a few images of us, carrying bags of trash. But yeah, there's so much trash in that river, and so we really focused on painting images of us, getting that trash out of there. And another year on the mural project, we focused on winter on the river. It was a little weird because, we were doing it during the summer. So we were looking at photos of winter scenes on the river instead of, really experiencing it. But one cool thing that we included in the river, in the mural, was pictures of bald eagles on the river. It was really interesting that we had bald eagles on the river because, that's not their natural habitat. There were 2 bald eagles that we included who came to the river every year to mate, or for 2 years to mate.
So the students had a lot to learn about science and art and sort of investigation during this project. So the initial project is broken up into the first half, which is actually going to the Mystic River and exploring the location and sort of learning about the science and the history of the river itself and sort of the environmental impacts of the animals there, any sort of history, like for example the tanneries dumping chemicals into the water, that sort of stuff. And so they take all of that information that they gathered during this trip, and then they go into the classroom and sort of put together the mural itself with David.
What we actually did was take those images and turn them to transparent images, and we put them on a projector, and projected them onto the panels and just traced them, which was really easy and less daunting and hard. But then came the hard part where we had to paint the images that we traced and make them look as realistic as possible. And I was scared that I'd single-handedly ruin the mural by adding my painting techniques to it. But David really, helped us out and, taught us different painting techniques that I use today as a visual arts major here. Different types of, painting techniques like feathering to make paint look like it's animal fur, or just capturing highlights on a trash bag, things like that I would have never known how to do.
So there are many challenges involved in this project. There's the whole challenge of organizing those challenges of space, because the mural takes, when we're painting, it takes up a lot of space. And it's a messy project. So we've managed to use an activity center at the housing that the housing authority has there at the projects. But there's always a lot of competition for the space and who gets to use it.
In terms of some of the challenges that I faced, and my role was largely the environmental educator associated with the project. So when we first took the students over to see the river, from their perspective, what we were looking at was a lake, something that didn't flow. One of the challenges that first year was actually having them understand that this river that they live next to, within a mile or two, actually flowed into a saltwater body, and so what we did is got in our canoes, went down the river, paddled the canoes just a couple miles down into Boston Harbor, and then on other explorations we had to kind of establish that it flowed from somewhere. So it was quite literally taking the canoes and paddling upstream until this wide river became little more than a narrow creek. So it was the establishment that this body that didn't seem to perceptibly move actually had a source and went somewhere.
So your question is, do I think that everyone is capable of being an artist? I say yes. When I think about more specific examples of how I've seen young people, actually all ages, become hooked into the creative process, it's usually through taking the risk and giving oneself permission to participate in a process, any process, in the arts. So one myth I think that gets in the way for young people is many folks around them will talk about talent, or they'll talk about the act of becoming an artist as something that suddenly comes upon you, perhaps. There's also the other theory that folks are born with this sort of gift kind of thing, and I've seen it not only isolate students in the room who get tagged as the art kid, but it also convinces other students who haven't had that discourse that they're not creative. I've seen the creation of community arts and participation in mural projects or whatever, bring people together in a way that's very interesting, and people who wouldn't necessarily label themselves as a creative person find a way into the process. And the sort of miracle is in the materials.
One of the great things about this project is how it kind of transforms people's perspectives on these youth, because they've created something beautiful and they actually clearly very much value it, because the mural's never been defaced in like 14 years, and it's right in the on the highway. It's very accessible. I remember one story was one of the highway people who put it up said, well, I don't think this is going to last very long. It'll only be a few months and somebody will graffiti it or something like that. And now after about 14 years, it's never been defaced. But also I think another thing that it transformed is the perspectives about the people that live in this low-income housing project. I remember one of the youth who was from Haiti talking to me as a grown-up years later after he had worked on the project, how much it had meant to him to be able to participate, because he said, we always felt like we were cut off, like we were an island and everybody looked at us in a certain negative way. And this was something beautiful that we created, and people really valued it, not just the people that live there, but people from other parts of the city. And it really put us on the map. We felt like this was something that really people saw us differently because of this mural that we had helped to create.
It's beautiful. I love it because it reminds me of the river. I walk every day around the river.